Hey, I am here to demonstrate the Retro 8 for you. And for those of you who are looking at this on eBay right now, I wanted to show you that the machine does work and run well. And I'm going to step you through this as I go. And for those on YouTube that are seeing this down the road, this will be a small little demo of how the Retro 8 from Moviestuff works. I have my software loaded on the machine. And of course, now this is a Windows 10 machine. It's a pretty fast machine. It's got an i7 in it, NVIDIA graphics card. So it is a stout machine. It works. It's a solid machine. You need to have a solid state drive in it to be able to record to, preferably a second drive. It doesn't have to be obviously on a laptop, so even if it's an external solid state, should work fine. And I've had luck just for myself being able to record to the main drive, which is typically not suggested, but it does work fine. Anyway, so I'm going to create a new album here. I've launched the software, and I'm going to call this Test, and tell it OK. And so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to load your film. So I've got actually a large reel on here. Now we're going to power it up. And there's a little spring right here, a little tension spring, and you open that spring up. And you want to have that spring closed most of the time if you're not using the machine, so it doesn't bend the spring, so it doesn't stay as tight on the film. It actually holds the film down tight so that it doesn't bobble around as it's crossing over the scan spot. So we've pushed it through here, and just going to load it from the other side. And get it to stay, and that's good. And the way you calibrate to make sure that the framing on the computer is correct is that you're actually going to make an adjustment right here, and I've got an Allen wrench to make that adjustment, and you're only going to use Super 8 to calibrate this. You don't use regular 8, so you want to use Super 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit forward on here. This is going to be in run, this is going to be in forward. I'm going to let it roll for a moment, and when the light pops on, I'm actually going to click, there's a little C and then setup. You can actually see it rolling there. So I'm going to set it to click it down to setup, and your light stays on so that you can now make this red line match up to the edge of the film, the left edge of the film. So just by going left and right on this bolt right here, you can line it up. So now I'm going to put it on run again. The light will pop up as soon as it sees the sprocket holes. Everything's based off the sprocket holes. When it sees a sprocket, it snaps a picture, and in the end, it's going to compile all those into one long movie for you. Okay, so it's running just fine. So now what I'm going to do is put this back into, I'm going to leave it on run, and there's forward and rewind on here, the two. So I put it in between, neutral, so it's not running. You also have your exposure right here, which is important because many times if the film was shot super bright, it may not even recognize when you're trying to calibrate it. It may not recognize that there are sprocket holes there because it's so overexposed. So you're going to need to drop the exposure down until you start seeing the pictures show back up. I'll show you a sample of that. Okay, so we're all ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit start here, and you've got to double click into the album. So I just had created an album and double click. Now I'm in that album. I'm going to hit start, and then I'm going to hit forward. And after a moment, my light's going to pop on here. Okay, so you're seeing nothing right now actually on here. Okay, but as soon as it finds an image, there it is. Okay, now you'll notice up here, there's a line, so the framing's off. So what you do is, you just come to this for the framer, you click this, and you raise it up. And then that's going to bring you into the right spot here. And that's my dog in the background, I apologize. And now it's framed properly. Right there. Okay, so now it's rolling. And you can see the people slowly moving, and it's capturing the frames. You can see the frames. Now this is where it's interesting with your exposure knob on the machine. It looks a little bright down there. You kind of got to find a happy medium here. By the way, I would have stopped and rewound and started again once I had the framing correct. But for this, I'm not going to do that. So you've got to kind of balance out on your exposure. That's just blown out in the background. There's nothing I can do about that. So what I'm going to do is just get as much detail as I can in there. And again, you know, these are just, if you make them real small tweaks, you won't even notice in the film, especially in a spot like this. I mean, this is nothing very exciting here that's going on. So, let's see if we can get, and part of the reason it may look a little bright is because I'm using my iPhone. Hopefully we can get to a spot that's a little more interesting for you guys. Alright. And you can see how the film goes through the sprockets here. Actually, I don't even have my spring down. That's good too. But obviously this is some pretty good film, so it's flowing right through. And that's it. You know, it snaps a shot every time it sees a frame, and that's why those sprockets are so important. If it's overexposed, you know, the film on the edge of the sprockets when it was shot, if it's like super white, you may have to bring this exposure knob down really low so that it can see the sprockets. That was me dimming it up and down. Anyway, so once it passes there, it's going to go through and obviously go on the reel. And if you've got film that's got creases or it's bent, sometimes it won't go through as smoothly. So you know, may have to, you can adjust the tension on the spring. You know, you can loosen it, and then you can bring down the spring where it's a little tighter against the film, and then tighten this guy. But hopefully your film's in decent shape. There's no guarantee though. And sometimes you just have to be extremely patient. Okay, so let's go back over to our film, and you know, there's a lot of contrast in here. One of the things you can do is, one of the options here is you can put this grain reduction on it, and it's hard to really tell with this, but you can click it on and off. It does fine. All it does is basically, I think what it really is doing is kind of a defocus. It's almost like it takes the camera a little out of focus, but I'm sure it's in the software. Okay, here's a spot with some good contrast where there's some super bright spots, and then some darks and some mid-tones, you know. So it's handling all that pretty well. You know, this is still all where you can see the data. You know, it's not overexposed. You can still see some detail. And then your mids are good. The color looks a little purple. It's on my phone. I think it's just the way my phone's white balance right now, the camera. But it's definitely not that purple on the screen. But if it were, you can either go in here and you can drop some of the, probably a little blue out of it. And actually it is looking better on the screen too. I dropped a little blue out. And I just make small little adjustments. I mean, unless you're trying to do a feature film, I think you're fine doing something like that. Okay, so once we're done, we're going to pretend we're done here. We're going to press stop, which is, you know, makes a lot of sense. I'm going to stop the machine so you can hear me a little better. And then I'm going to just label this test. Okay. And say okay. Now I have in my settings, this is settings, I have this set for 720 is what I'm recording on, and as you can see I'm actually recording to the C drive, and then you can tell it where to export. So mine will go to my secondary internal drive. So let me close this. Okay, now we're going to click on export, and I have it set to HD, so it's going to put little bars on the side, black bars, so it'll center it up when you look at it on 16:9. You can choose, if you had a lot of clips in here, you can tell it to export the album and it'll kick all those out at once. But I'm going to tell it clean crop. Just if the edges are a little bit edgy, then it'll clean those up for you. And otherwise, I'm just going to hit go, and you're about to export, so click yes, and it's exporting, and then I'll show you the file folder that it puts your final video in. Okay, so we're finished up, and so I'm going to show you the folder where it is dropped our video clip. I'm going to go to my second drive that I have in my machine here, and you can choose, of course, wherever you want to put this folder, but here's my RetroScan exports folder, and Test was the name of that album I had created, and here's my clip. Open it up, and there it is playing, and you can fast forward through it. Alright, and that's it. So, and just to show you what day this is, it is January 2nd, 2017. Alright, so this is when this video is being made. Thanks, and good luck with your bidding. And for those that want to know how to use a Retro 8 in the future, now you know.